Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another installment of Whiteboard Wednesday. We are live on the interwebs. We'll get started here momentarily once the live stream has done its thing. It should only take a couple more minutes for this to get going. And we're going to talk about some stuff. We're going to go ahead and dive into some exam preparation and all that good stuff that goes along with it, because it's actually rather important for you to have a game plan when you're going into your certifications. So we'll give this a few more minutes before we actually get into the weeds and all that good stuff that goes along with it. So if you have any questions or comments, feedback, that type of stuff, go ahead and drop that into the chat. We'll definitely take a look at the chat as we get going here and go from there. I'm going to show you guys how to navigate a little bit of Cisco's website, and then we'll dive into certification prep, what you guys should do, spreadsheet development, that type of stuff, and go from there. Because it's going to be important for you to take those type of things into consideration when you're looking at the day-to-day operations and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up YouTube Studio. I see there's people jumping in to see some viewers joining now. I am going to go ahead and pull up the posts, and we're going to get into it. So I'll wait till about 3 after, and then we'll dive into it. So in case anybody is interested in seeing what we got going on. All right. Good stuff. Okay, so we're at that point, and we're going to go ahead and so what we're going to be doing this evening, since we're pretty much right there. So what we're going to be diving into this evening is going to be exam preparation, right? Exam preparation is a big deal. We definitely need to make sure that we have a game plan going into our certifications, figure out what we need to go tackle with them. What are some training platforms? What are, do I just watch video? Do I just watch, or do I read books? Do I just read the documentation? Like, what's a good strategy for anyone that wants to dive into an exam? Because by the time you get through the blueprint, right, you're going to end up having to pay Pearson VUE, which is where you go take your Cisco exams. You're going to end up having to pay them a nominal amount of money in order to take your test, right? So when you, how's it going, Kaleem? Good, man. How are you? You're going to have to pay them a little bit of money in order for you to take your test, right? So we want to be cognizant of what it is that you're going to end up having to sit for your test for, because I'm not made of money. I know most of you aren't made of money. So you're going to end up having to spend a little bit in order to take the test. Ultimately, you have to invest in yourself, which is why the certification exam is there. So we're going to start off with something that just about everybody is going to go after certification-wise. We're going to look at the CCNA. That's the most common Cisco certification out there that most people go after because it is the entry level. It's the associate level certification, and we're going to we need to take into consideration the complexities of diving into it. Right? It's not not everybody has a rock solid game plan, and that's one thing we're going to dive into. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up into a new tab just so we have this here in case we want to jump back to it. So Cisco Certified Network Associate. So I'm on their website, and I want to, I'm just getting started, right? I don't really know what I need to go study. I don't know how to track it, anything like that. So one of the things that you can go through here and do is look at the exam topics, which is exactly what we're going to go do. Like, what do you need to learn? So we're going to go ahead and open that up, and I'm going to come over here to the Cisco Learning Network, and we'll deliver the exam topics directly to your inbox. Oh, I'm good. No thanks. So the first things first, we have the exam topics or the blueprint. What is the syllabus essentially? So what do you need to go learn? So there's a couple different ways that you can look at this. You can take this, and usually there is a what's the word I'm looking for? PDF version. For whatever reason, I don't see that available here. Oh, right here. Download a complete list of the PDF topics in PDF format. Okay. So let's take a look at this. So this is going to expand out what we've got going on and what we need to go do. So how hard is it to really get into this? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about how that comes into play. Now, I'm not going to go over the exam topics right this minute. I want to talk a little bit more about coming up with a structured approach for that. So let's come back over here to our exam topics, and you have some study resources and things like the exam review tool, learning labs, things like that. Now, if we come back over here to CCNA, what we're going to look for here is the additional resources tab. This is what I want you guys to pay attention to. So we're going to click on the additional resources, and what you're going to get is you're going to have a few things here that are going to help you out. Now, when you get into the higher level certifications like your CCNP or your CCIE, you're going to have like tracking, which is one of the reasons why I kept this thing open. One more. So let's hypothetically say you've got your CCNA. Congratulations. Now you want to move into CCNP Enterprise. Okay, let's take a look at CCNP Enterprise. So what you can do when you're looking at this, we can look at the exams, and I'm going to look at the 350-401, right? So I'm going to click on that. That's going to take me to the core exam. Now that I'm here, we have a couple associated certifications. So I'm going to click on review exam topics, and it's going to redirect me again to this website, right? So it's going to be the same thing. No, I don't want to do that. So it's going to bring you back to the same place we were just at for CCNA. So what I want to do is I want to click on CCNP, and there might be a more direct way of doing this, but this is just how I navigate to it. So you're going to click on additional resources, and what you're going to get right here is you get your learning matrix. This is what I wanted you guys to see. It's a spreadsheet that Cisco's put together, and so you have a couple of different, you've got frequently asked questions, you've got study materials, you've got, so on and so forth. What I want to take a look at here is the learning matrix. So this is a spreadsheet. I'm going to go ahead and just save that. And what we're going to go do is we're going to go ahead and open up that, and that got saved to this file right here, QCount2. And I am looking, let me go ahead and pull it up real quick. Normally I wouldn't have saved it right there, but it's okay. So here's a spreadsheet that you'll get to download. So for some reason that guy got, there it is, it's hiding. Okay, so this is what you end up downloading, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna close, there we go. All right, so what you wanna see is what exactly is it that you need to dive into. So I'm gonna say close, don't need that there. So you have a bunch of information in front of you. So what they're going to go do is they're going to give you some online references that you can go dive into, right? You have your certification guide, right? The OCG, the official certification guide. And then you have implementing and operating Cisco Enterprise Network Core Technologies. So this is going to be a training, like a video on demand. So what you're going to do is you're going to go through these things. So this will be the OCG. You click on this, and it's going to ask me, do I want to allow my computer to go out to the internet? And the answer would be sure. So it's going to redirect you to here, Cisco Press. So this is the book you would want to get, right? That's the first thing. Now we go back over here, click on here. This is going to redirect me to cisco.com, and it's going to bring me to the online training. Buy e-learning, find a class, Cisco University, so on and so forth. So they're going to give you some opportunities to dive into the technologies and things like that. Now, all those are great, right? They work out, they get the job done. But at the end of the day, how useful are they? Well, the official certification guide, it's a good first start. So Is that where I would recommend you start? Well, that's one of many resources, right? Now, as you're going through this, there's going to be a lot of details in here that you're going to be able to read about, but there's also online references that you want to pay attention to. So one question I get a lot is, Rob, how do I study for software-defined access? It's, very hardware dependent. You need dedicated switches for it. You need a really BV server to run a DNAC, DNA Center, and then you need to run ICE and a bunch of other stuff. So how would I go about doing that? Well, my first comment would be, I don't really care about how to get it stood up, right? I care more about understanding how it works. So how would you do that? Well, here's the SDA design guide. So I'm going to click on that, and is it going to let me do it? Objective view is, okay, cancel. So, okay, apparently I didn't click ahead to make sure this is going to work. But, ironically, I'm clicking on the thing and it doesn't want to let me go out to the website. So, there might be a flaw in their spreadsheet. So, go figure. So, is this what I'm looking for? No. So, that's a PDF to a... So let's go yes. This will take me to Cisco Live. Page not found. So there's some broken links and some flaws in their spreadsheet, clearly. So what you can do instead is you can go through and Google for this type of stuff, right? So you would go to the Googles, and here we have in this particular case here, the link to go open up for QoS in the spreadsheet. So apparently that link worked, but this link does not. So how would you go about learning SDA? Well, you'd have to go to Cisco. A quick way would be let me go ahead and grab an incognito. And if we were to go here and just type in Cisco SD, is it going to pull up that fast? SDA, okay, right here. So Cisco SD Access Solutions Design Guide. We're going to click on that. It's going to redirect us. Okay, cool. So here we are on DNA, right? So it's going to walk us through. It's a Cisco validated design, which is what a CVD is. And we're going to be able to walk through how to stand this particular platform up. And there's a bunch of diagrams that they're going to use and how you would go about doing this. So if you don't know much about the platform and you want to dig into it more, this would be a great first place for you to start, because it's going to be giving you a high-level overview of what SDA is all about. And that's really what you want, right? You don't need to get in and start implementing SDA. You don't need to go out and spend thousands of dollars on Catalyst 9Ks and going out and trying to get DNA Center or ICE. Just come right here. This is where you need to start and start digging into what it is that makes this whole thing tick. Because this particular document and the configuration guides that I'll show you guys how to navigate to are going to be the things that you're going to be, the questions that are going to be on the exam are the questions that are going to be drawn from. If it's anything that's publicly reachable, that's where they're going to test you on. So those are the things that you're going to want to spend time digging into. Now, at the high level review, that's the basics of where you want to dive into and how to approach it. Now, are there better ways of doing it? Sure. You can go through a dedicated training. Maybe your employer is cool with sending you to a week-long boot camp on SDA, or maybe they have a Cisco University subscription, or whatever the case might be. So you'd be able to look at it from that perspective. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. The other thing to pay attention to on the blueprint, and let's see how many, looks like it opened up. Oh, it was working. It just was, okay, so let me close this one out. Apparently it opened up several copies. It was working. Never mind, the links all did work. How far back do I have to go? Quite a few. Okay, so let's go ahead and close all these out, because I don't need 9 tabs for the CVD open. So, my bad. I take back my snarky comment about Cisco's website being broken, or the PDF, or the spreadsheet being broken. So it is working. This is the design guide you would want to go through to understand how the whole thing works, right? Now, if we go back over here I'm going to go ahead and close this out. and I'm going to go ahead and we're going to talk a little bit more about CCNA because that's where most people spend their time. But I wanted to show you the spreadsheet of where you can navigate and just start going through and take a look at how stuff comes together and all the operations that go into that. So if you're interested in diving into this when you get to the CCNP level, this is where I would recommend you start so you can understand the specifics of how the exam is going to be delivered. All right. Now we're going to look at the CCNA blueprint. Now, how hard is CCNA? Well, there's two ways to answer that question. If you are already a experienced engineer and you've been doing IT networking for, let's say, 5, 6, 7 years, and you want to dive into your CCNA, whatever the motivator is, it could be employer, it could be personal goal, whatever. What's your best attack plan? Well, you're actually going to be a little bit faster in terms of getting up to speed and getting towards the deadline of passing your certification because you already have industry experience, right? That is going to be, it's hard to replicate industry experience through labs. Unless you have hands-on experience and you spend a lot of time labbing stuff out, you're going to be knowledgeable on stuff, but your width of knowledge and understanding is going to be limited to the... Can we get the spreadsheet link in chat? Yeah, I should be able to hook you guys up with that. Where was it? Copy link address. Here, I'll throw it in the chat for you. There you go. So you're already going to have a leg up on someone that's just started off with, they're just diving into the network. They're starting to understand how, CCNA works and what the basics of networking are, so on and so forth. So that's going to be a area of, I wouldn't say a problem or be problematic, but you're going to have to spend more time, if you don't know anything, learning how stuff works. Now, do I recommend somebody that's fresh off the street, like literally doesn't know anything about IT, diving into CCNA? No, I don't. I definitely don't recommend anybody do that. Back in the day when I took it, 10, 11, 12 years ago, whatever it was, the first thing that I did was I spent a lot of time in CompTIA Network Plus, and then I studied for the IC&D 1. So it was the Interconnecting Cisco Networking Devices 1, the first edition or whatever. No problem, Jackson. Happy to help. So what I would do is I would spend my time reviewing the Network Plus blueprint, understanding that because it's vendor agnostic. So it doesn't matter which, Juniper, Cisco, Aruba, Arista, it didn't pay attention to any of that. What it paid attention to was how networking works. That's what you started off with. So when you come at it from that perspective, it was like a ground floor entrance. So appreciate that, Jackson. So your best bet, if you don't know anything about networking, CCNA is going to be like a multi-story skyscraper when you first go in. I remember, for me at least, that's what it felt like. It felt like every new topic was a new thing that I had to spend hours reviewing, watching, reading, trying to understand the concepts. To be honest with you, VLANs blew my mind. Like, wait, what? You can take this device and you can chop it up into multiple logical broadcast domains. Like, what? And each port was its own collision domain, and I was just like what? So there was a lot of learning initially that went into this that took time. And I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but one of the first times that I started diving into it, I would literally be done at the end of the night on my computer, and I would get off my computer for a little bit, and my brain would hurt. Not a headache bad, not like I had a headache, but when you're literally just spent, the last 3 or 4 hours trying to learn something, and you're like, you get it, right? You make sense to you, but if you wanted to put it into your own words and explain it to somebody else, you're not quite there yet, right? There's a little bit of static. If you're watching old school TV where you're trying to get the the channel to come in. You had to play with the rabbit ears. Some of you may know what I'm talking about, but I'm a little bit on the older side. You said to adjust the rabbit ears and try to, get the dial just right so you'd be able to get in the clearest picture you could. Well, that's kind of how I correlate it to when you're learning something new and you're not, you get it, you can see it, you can understand it. But if somebody asked you to explain it to them, you wouldn't be quite knowledgeable or proficient in the technology enough to explain it to them. And to me, that's where you really need to be like, okay, I get it for the most part, but I need to like sleep on it for the day. And it's actually funny. I remember when I first started going through my CCNP/CCIE preparation, I started to, I remember listening to Brian McGann, and he would talk about the structured pyramid style learning and how you would build a base and then you would add on to that. And so it's ironic how he's like, even though we title our courses the Advanced Technologies class or course or whatever verbiage they would use, he's like, really what you're doing is you're just taking a systemic approach to learning every little nerd knob, variable, option, whatever you want to call it, geek, tweak, however you want to refer to it, in order to learn all the different ways that protocol can be used in the network, where it's used, how it's used. And as long as you learn all the individual options that are, if you do like a router OSPF1, for example, you hit the enter key and you do the question mark, and you go through and you see the litany of individual topics or configuration options that were listed underneath router OSPF1. It was just a matter of time going through each one and then testing it out. And now, are you required to do that for CCNA? No, you're not. The CCNA level of deep dive for OSPF is actually very, very simple. All they want you to do is know how to deploy a single area OSPF version 2, so IPv4 only, and then neighbor adjacencies, point-to-point, broadcast, so the DR, BDR election, and the router ID. That's literally all they're expecting you to be knowledgeable on, because that's like the ground floor level of what you need to know for OSPF version 2. Is there more to that? Oh yeah, there's a whole lot more to it than that. However, you're going to have to spend a little bit of time on each one of these things. It might take you a day to understand the difference between point-to-point network type and broadcast network type, and why the Type 2 LSA doesn't exist on the point-to-point. So you might, like, going back to my the old school TV analogy, where you get it, right? You get a pretty clear picture of what's going on, but if you wanted to talk to your neighbor about it and explain to him what's going on, you wouldn't be quite able to explain in the detail that you need to about what that particular thing is. Nothing wrong with that, but it just means you just need some more time. And then, so what's actually happening in the background, and I don't want to get into how neurology works, but I remember watching a video on how the brain is able to take what you learn, and now there's a synapse that's built, right? And so once you've learned something, it's easy to recall. Now it's hard to sometimes maintain or to write that to memory, if you will, do a write mem or copy run start, you know what I mean? So you have to take a little bit of time for your brain to fully absorb that information, and then the more times you go over it, the easier and easier it is to recall it. So I remember getting questions probably a while back, several years. People used to ask me all the time, why do you always sound like your recall speeds are like that? And the answer to the question was always, well, whenever I'm developing a lab or testing something out, I always make sure to keep re-going over all the basics. So if I was going to connect 4 routers together, I would make sure that in between each router there was a switch, and then I would cross-connect with trunk links and do 802.1q tagging on sub-interfaces. So I was always having to go back through, okay, I need to have VLANs, I need to have trunking, and it would go through the basics of layer 2 switching on every lab I would build. So I'd always have layer 2 networking as my baseline. Because remember, if layer 2 is not going to work, layer 3 is never going to work because layer 3 needs layer 2 in order to get from point A to point B. You can't, if you can't ARP for the MAC address of the IP address you're trying to reach, the network's never going to come online, right? So yes, you can run point to point over a multi-access interface, but you just have to change the network type, right? It does work. So when you start getting into how the complexities work, that's what it really boils down to, is you have to take the time to just go through it. And going back to my Brian McGann analogy of you have, I don't have a spreadsheet directly, well, I closed it out, but what you do is when you get into these technologies, or for example, the fundamentals here, if you don't know what a router does, you've got to spend some time looking that up. And like, okay, what does a router do? You know, a router routes. Well, how does it route? You know, what are the multiple steps going through that? And so that's why I say it's actually better off for anyone that wants to dive into networking and you don't already have at least a basic IT background. It's not a good idea to step off into CCNA land day one. It actually makes more sense for you to start off on something that isn't Cisco. So what would that be? CompTIA and Network Plus. So let me go ahead and pull up, I think I have it still here. Yeah. So let's go ahead and open up another tab. We're going to say CompTIA Network Plus. You would actually be more, it would be more worth your time and your effort to start with your Network Plus training. So I don't care if you go through CBT Nuggets, Udemy, or any of these other options that are out there. The best thing for you to do, and let's go over here because I want the actual blueprint. I'll say I'll accept cookies and nope, I don't need that. Goodbye. So what you want is exam details, right? So what exactly are you going to be studying? So is it going to tell me? Maybe not. So you'll learn these things. You'll learn networking fundamentals, network implementations, network operations, network security, network troubleshooting. So is there a, that's the overview. So it's, bet you it's not gonna, preparation. I was hoping for a blueprint or the exam topics, but I don't think it's gonna be, I don't think it's gonna give it to me. So, well, that's kind of a bust. But the point that I'm trying to see if I can't find it real quick. The exam is a little on the steep side. It looks like $370 for the test. Is that worth it? The way that I explain going after a specific certification is if it seems a little on the more expensive side, you know, $370 to take your, and I don't know if that's the exact price. I'm just going to take the price that I see. If the exam is $370 for you to sit and take it, is it worth the certification itself? And the answer to my question is only you can make that decision. I would say that if you can't afford $370, but you can afford, let's go back over here and let me look at Amazon. Let's see if they have the book. So for $45, you would get, so Scott Jernigan and Mike Myers. I wonder if that's the same Mike Myers that does the, can't remember that guy's name. He's got a YouTube channel that he does a bunch of A+ and CompTIA stuff. And I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. I'll have to Google for it later. But, like, if you were to read through this, I'm just hoping, will it give me a read more? Okay, so here's a little bit of a breakdown. So you're going to talk about network architectures, cabling and topology, Ethernet basics, network installation, TCP/IP apps, and network protocols. So it's going to go through a lot of the things that you need to know. So if you were to take this, all these bullet points here for the exam topics, and then jump over here to CCNA, you're going to see a lot of overlap, right? And that's the point, is you're going to see a lot of overlap between the two. And the benefit to that is when you can go through at a, I'll say more of a junior level starting off, and you can dive into it. And I don't want to say it's going to be easier to understand per se, but it won't be Cisco centric. But at least it'll give you a vendor agnostic, meaning it doesn't matter who the vendor is. Networking as long as there's a RFC associated to whatever you're working on, all vendors are going to implement it. Just the syntax might be different. If you can take into consideration those details, that's going to be pretty much a game changer for you, because what that's going to allow you to do is that's going to allow you to read the content and absorb it. You don't have to go take the certification exam, right? If you can extrapolate the information from whatever source you happen to be going through, whether it's book, video, podcast, whatever, if you can go through the material and learn from it, gather some information so you're a little bit smarter, day after day after day. I don't remember how big that book was. Let's go back to that book. The book is... how many pages? It's 1,000 pages. So if you were to take into consideration, let's say you were to read one topic a day, right? For the first, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So let's say you take 3 weeks and you don't sit there and try to learn it at a deep level. You don't try to understand every little nook and cranny, but you read the book, you read the first topic, network architectures. So you start here and then you move on to the next thing, because the goal would essentially is to build one topic after another. So if you want to understand networking architectures, then cabling and topologies might be a little bit easier to understand and grasp. The idea is to compound, so you build, one topic after another, which is, the same thing you're going to do if you go after your CCNA. But if you take a month, or even a couple of months, and you go through Network Plus, you're already going to have at least a decent baseline to start from. Do you need to take the exam for Network Plus? No, you don't. Is it worth it? Potentially. It could help you for sure. I'm not gonna say it's gonna hurt you. An employer is not gonna look at, we'll say, I don't know if he's still watching or not, but Jackson Ray, if he's got a CompTIA Network Plus certification on his resume, and Rob Riker doesn't, and they're both at the same point in their career, a couple years in, but Jackson's got a certification and Rob Riker doesn't, then Jackson Ray might get the phone call where Rob Riker gets passed over because he's just applying for a job and he's got no tangible skills to associate to him. You're not putting any personal time into your professional development. And that's a big thing that I see in the industry. People don't put the amount of time and effort in that they should. They just kind of want to skate by and, work through their day and not really care too much. And if that's the way you want it to be, that's fine. But just realize that if your inputs are only so many, your outputs are going to get so many. So if you're only putting out a little bit, don't expect to get an avalanche back, right? Now if you're going after your CCNA, you get your CCNA because you took the time to learn Network Plus, and then you decided to take the time and read the official certification guide from Cisco, reporting for duty. That's funny. Hired. And I'm glad you guys all agree with me on this. So if you take the time to put you put the correct amount of effort in, you should get equal or greater effort at response back in. So you get out what you put into it, right? You reap what you sow. So if you go through these bullet points and you get to a certain point where you can go through, and this is how I know if I'm ready or not, is I take all these bullet points and I'll pull up an Excel spreadsheet. Can't talk here. So let me go ahead and open up a new notebook. And I like when they do that. So let's just open this up a little bit. Let me go ahead and get rid of this. So let me show you what this might look like. Okay. So we're going to say network fundamentals. Right. So I'm going to go ahead and scoot this guy over. And we're going to say that the first topic is going to be routers, layer 2 and layer 3 switches. And did you know that switches can do layer 2 and layer 3? If you didn't, shame on you if you're going to be a network guy. Then you have next gen firewalls. You have access points. Then you have controllers, and we'll do DNAC and will see for short. Oh, I forgot to put the parentheses here. So I'll get this going for you guys, for anybody that actually cares. And then you're going to do endpoints, you're going to go servers, and you're going to do PoE. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bold this because it's a major topic. And what you're going to do is you're going to have a few other things here. So you're going to say, you have to gauge yourself on a regular basis. Read about it? Question mark. Have you labbed it? Not everything can be labbed, right? But most things can be. Labbed it. And then you can come up with other things like, I don't know, touched it. You know, maybe you have a router to play with, or maybe you've done some research on them, things like that. But what this will do, or maybe you put some notes over here, but it'll give you at least a spreadsheet to gauge your progress. And what you do is you go through the same thing. So we'll come down here. So actually, let me go ahead and add in insert. So we're going to say explain. Oops, I don't want to do that one. We're going to say explain the role and function of network components. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to continue to do this over and over and over again for everything. So we're going to, let's see here. We'll put this, I like to make my spreadsheets a little bit easier to work with. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to say, can I do this? We're going to say all borders, just so that it's cleaned up a little bit. And then we're going to come down here and say describe characteristics of network, I can't type all of a sudden, network topology architectures. Now, when you do stuff like this, what this is going to gain you is a tracking sheet, essentially. So you're going to say 2-tier, 3-tier, spine leaf, WAN, Soho, and then on-prem and cloud. And so what you're going to do is these, write about it, and then you're going to put these together. Nope, I don't want to do that. I want to do this guy, and we're going to do all borders. So what you can do now is you can break this down. Okay, yes, I did. Did I read about routers? Yes. Okay, so at least you got a percentage. Now, if you fancy-fied people that know spreadsheets way better than I do, and you wanted to put like a checklist at the bottom, a percentage completed, you can take this and make it your own and grow it. But the bottom line here is that you'll be able to take what you're doing, you'll be able to take all these details in your spreadsheet, and you'll be able to grow it and be able to do all the things you need to. So actually, let me show you an example of what I mean. Let me go ahead and minimize everything real quick. I got a lot open on my main screen because I'm always labbing something. Where did I put it? Right here. So this is what I did when I was studying for, did it open? Is it hiding? Guess not. We're gonna, Can we open? Open. It's like it wants to, but it's being difficult. And I don't see it floating around anywhere. All right, not that important. But what I wanted you guys to see, let me go ahead and, right, there it is. Okay, so what I wanted you guys to see was, I'll see if I can't find it and open it up. So what I'm going to do is, for anybody that was on the live stream today, I am going to, on the live stream, the page, can I do anything more? I'm just curious if I couldn't. For those of you that want this, I'll save it. Let me go ahead and pull this off screen real quick. I'll do a file. Oh, there it is. Now it decided to show up. Okay, that's so nice of it. Okay, this is what I was trying to show you. Now it's there. Okay, so this is what I did for when I was studying for my VCAP. So what my VCAP means is I was studying for the VMware Certified Advanced Professional Deploy exam for NSX. And so what I did is I literally took the blueprint topics and I went through and I took all the breakdown of it and I started going through all the individual topics and topic read and one note taken, topic lab tested, linked to documentation. Here I obviously didn't go as far as I probably could have, but what I did do is I read through everything. I would pull up the documentation and I read through it all. Did it take some time? Yes, it did. But what it did is it gave me a really solid baseline for me to say, yes, I've gone through this, I understand how it works, the details behind it. And when I was going through my lab build, I built out the lab and I made sure that as I was going through the details, I knew how to do everything. I went from the top down and I didn't stop until I was completely done. And now, was it exhaustive? Yes. If I could lab it up, I would. For example, like EVPN here. I read about it, but I wasn't able to demo it in my lab environment because I didn't have the capability of doing that. Another example would be down here, Identity Firewall, Distributed IDS, and NSX Intelligence or Service Insertion. I read about all of them, but I wasn't able to go through and actually implement because of the requirements that were there. So did I do a lot of other stuff? Yes, I did. Was I able to do VIDM access policy? Nope. But what it did give me the flexibility of doing is this was my litmus test. Am I ready? Now, what's cool about it is once I had gone through everything, I didn't waste any time. I immediately went to VMware and I booked the exam and I took it a week later. Now, mind you, I still had the lab build and I was still specifically and systematically breaking things, fixing them, digging into whatever I had to, and I'm glad that I did because when I sat for the exam, I had to do a lot of digging to figure out how they had built the environment because it wasn't exactly clear, and I started to try to get something to work, and it didn't come online. Like the BGP peering I was trying to get configured wasn't coming online, and I'm like, huh, okay, what the heck? So then I had to start digging in. Okay, well, let me go find the transport zones. Let me go find the VLAN back segments. And like, oh, okay, I see it. So I had to go create the VLAN back segment and associate it to the right transport zone so that the edge router, the edge node, would be able to connect to the outside router, and I'd be able to form a BGP peering over it. And then I logged into the edge router or the edge node, and I was able to verify the BGP peering was up. Configure and verify. What is your opinion on studying for anything VMware with the massive price hikes? So I have seen some of that stuff come through and how they're jacking the prices up. I don't agree with it per se, but what I do is, because I'm an engineer at the end of the day, is I still go through and I've got vMug access for the eval experience of vMug Advantage, and I still have my server, specifically this guy right here. I'll go ahead and relaunch it real quick. It might take it a second for it to load because there's a little bit going on here. But what this does is at some point in the future, and you guys can't see it because I'm looking past the camera, I have a whiteboard that's about 3 foot by 4 foot or so. And what this gives me the ability to do is it gives me the option to go and test out all the different VMware technologies. So I can play around with vCenter Server, ESXi, VMware Cloud Foundation or VCF. So I'm able to play around with the technologies and things like that because at the end of the day, there are still going to be customers deploying VMware and all the technology that they've got going on. So I don't necessarily agree with it because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that they were acquired, was it Broadcom acquired VMware? So through an acquisition, they're probably, the cash flow, I don't know. I don't know the business side of it. But the bottom line is they're making some business decisions that aren't necessarily the greatest, and it's probably going to cost some business to them. But at the end of the day, they're not. Could they lose a small percentage of their market share because they've decided to hike their prices up? I'm sure there's probably going to be some mutinies, and some customers are going to leave VMware to go to, say, Microsoft or whatever else. But or they might even go full cloud if they were on the fence. But I personally think that they need to think twice before they start just hiking their prices up, because it's not going to help them in the long run if they do. It's going to put a bad taste in people's mouths about that. But so anyway, if we look here, I've got 4 different Eve instances going for service provider workbook type stuff that I'm doing for development. Because I've mentioned this before on some of the AMAs, and I talk about how I will get bored. And I'll show you the workbook that I'm working on. I was actually doing this a little bit before the video started, where I've got a pretty large file, and I'll show you the topology here. I think this is it. So this is the BGP topology that I'm working on right now for the workbook. It's very, very large on purpose, and you got a lot of moving parts. And this is the workbook, and I'll show you just this is the navigation for BGP. Because it's specific to service provider, I'm taking a deep dive into BGP again. Do I know most of these things? I do, which makes writing the book relatively quick and easy. But it's going through and validating just so that I know exactly what I need to do, and the capabilities and configuration are relatively fresh in the brain. So I always try to keep my skills up to par for what I'm trying to do. So that just gives you an idea of what I'm working on and things like that. So going back to the blueprint here, I will save as, browse, and where would I save this? We'll save it to documents. I'll talk CCNA spreadsheet. So what I'll do is I will put the spreadsheet that I started to create off the blueprint. What about the workbook? What about to buy the workbook? Does the Patreon for the workbook include the lab files? So if you're talking about the enterprise workbook, everything's inside of that, and then the Eve topology files should be in there for that. Let me just double check. Cisco Enterprise Video Series. Yeah, so if you have access to the if you've bought access to the membership or through Patreon and you bought the workbook, then you should also get a link. What's the enterprise? Oh, no, that's 2 different things. My bad. No, that'll be something else. CCP, no, that's older. What am I looking for here? Enterprise workbook. Okay. So if you don't already have the lab files for that, let me know. But I'm pretty sure that the topology, that should all be up in Patreon. You should have access to all of that. If you don't, let me know. If you are with Patreon, ping me through Patreon that you don't have something, and I'll make sure you get it. So it's been a little bit since I've uploaded, but I will put the I'll put the spreadsheet for CCNA up in on Patreon, and then also in the Google Doc file. So I'll find a way for you guys to get the CCNA spreadsheet. I'll probably just put it in my Google Drive, and I'll share it out, and anybody that wants to gain access to it, just follow the link. So anyway, that's that. So at least that'll point you in the right direction for your CCNA prep or whatever certification you're going after. I'm a big believer in putting together a spreadsheet so that you have a guide or a way to track your progress and things like that. I think that's really, really important. If you don't, then you're just going to be, that's why one of the reasons why I'm writing the book for service provider, because it gives me allows me to test something out, when I know it's working, I can just throw it into the workbook and be good to go. And I know it's going to be good because I just have to navigate to wherever the file is and away I go. So yeah, there's that. So you're about to buy. Oh, sorry, I misread your comment. So you're about to buy the workbook. So yeah, if you, all of that will be available through. Let me just check Patreon real quick because it's been a minute. So you should have. Yeah, the Enterprise Workbook is in there. And when you click on the Google Drive, yeah, so okay, so my fault. I should have just looked. So if you have the Patreon, if you bought the Patreon and you're logged in, if you go to the Enterprise Workbook, the Cisco Enterprise Workbook, the Google Drive, that'll link you to the file that has everything for you to download. So when you do that, you should get access to it. And if you don't, let me know. I will get you access to it. But I haven't had anybody that's bought the book that has brought that up to me. So I would assume that it's going to work. So hopefully that answers your question. Anywho, the last thing I want to talk about real quick is the what my game plan is now that we're pretty much done. I don't want to dig into anything else that's certification specific unless you guys have questions about certifications or what have you. And if I don't have a hard stop at 8, so if there's something you want to dive into or whatever, throw it in the chat and I'm happy to dive into it. But one of the things that I am currently working on right now is, I talked about it in my Ask Me Anything, which I actually have not looked to see what the feedback has been on that. One second here, there's a comment. You can run. Okay, cool, Jackson. Good luck to you, man. Let me know if you need any help with that. Okay, cool. So one of the things that I am doing right now is I've done some analytics on the content that I've been producing lately, and I've found that, and I talked about this in the AMA, for anybody that hasn't watched that video yet, one thing that I have come across is that whenever I release big videos courses that are multiple videos together in like a playlist, that are, half an hour, 45 minutes, hour-long videos that are like technical deep dives and things like that, they do not do very well on YouTube. However, things like Ask Me Anything, Tech Support Thursday, Whiteboard Wednesday, stuff that's more, YouTube algorithm friendly does do well. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to take the big video courses, if you will, taking them off of YouTube. Not anything that's there already will stay. Anything new will be. I'm developing a training site right now where, and I'm not going to tell you where it is because it's like I just started doing development on it. But like the workbooks and things like that, the video courses that I've done, all of that will be going into a training site that will be a one-stop shop. So if you want to get the book, any book that I produce will be available through that. If you want any courses that I produce, will be through that. And with the intention of keeping YouTube the way it is, so Whiteboard Wednesday, the coaching sessions on Friday, all that type of stuff will stay the same. They Ask Me Anything to try to keep up with the YouTube questions, Tech Support Thursday, all that type of stuff will stay the same. And my engagement with you guys, I don't want to deviate from that because you guys seem to like that. But what I will be doing is flipping over to a training platform that will give me more flexibility and stuff like that. So I did mention this in the AMA that my goal is to migrate anybody that's already a member, that's already bought the book or has access to it, that will automatically continue to have access to it. You won't have to like rebuy or re-membership, if you will, to the training site. it's going to take me some time to get that up and running. And my goal is to, where is it? I think it's this one right here. My goal is to build out the enterprise track. So CCST, we'll start off with that, more like your CompTIA Network Plus, if you will. And then once this is done, CCNA will pick up where that left off, and CCNP Enterprise will pick up where CCNA left off, so that they're a build off of the previous one type of idea. So wherever you are coming in, that's where you'll start. And if you're looking to get CCNA, you should already be able to rock a CCST with no problem. So that's where I'm planning on going with the day-to-day type stuff. Just for ping. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I've been actually going through his content on Udemy. It's actually pretty good. So if you are looking to learn segment routing, I would definitely recommend his content. It's pretty solid. So the that's my game plan, is to start doing that. So that'll include things like, firewall stuff. It's not going to be limited to just, core networking. I do plan on updating to the newest version of SD-WAN based off the CCEI blueprint is 20.9. So I'll go through and I'll do a new SD-WAN course. I'll cover Fortinet, Palo, Firepower, ASA, Nexus 9K, a bunch of VMware stuff. I'm going to dive into cloud, some Microsoft stuff. So my goal is to have a place where anything that I want to produce content-wise will be going on the training site over the next several years, I guess. So that is what I'm working on currently. So YouTube is still going to stay. That's not going away. I enjoy working with you guys and the interaction that I get. Whiteboard Wednesday will be a consistent thing unless there's a reason why I can't be there, whether it's travel for work, or I've got something that comes up that doesn't allow me to, or I'll reschedule it for another day. So, but yeah, other than that, if you guys have anything else that you guys want to talk about or dig into, I'm free to chat a little bit more. But that's pretty much what I wanted to cover in today's Whiteboard Wednesday, to at least give you guys a game plan. And if there's anything you guys want to see covered, let me know in either the chat here or comment on the YouTube post when I put it out there. But other than that, we're nearing the top of the hour, so I'm going to shut it down if you guys don't have anything else. Which firewall vendors will you be covering? Well, I'm going to start off with ASA. That's my goal. Oh, never mind, I was typing too slow. ASA, Firepower, both on the device manager, so locally managed, plus through FMC, which I actually have FMC right here. What's the IP address? This guy. Oh, I never configured it. That's why. So I had to go through. I have FMC stood up, FMC 6. So my goal is to, and I'll bring you guys over to the security track real quick. I developed the courses I'm planning on covering based off of the CCIE blueprints and what the exam or whatever the equipment and software lists are for this. So in this particular case here, I will, yeah, you too, Jackson. Enjoy your night. So 7.1 and 6.2. So I'll be going through FTD 6 and 7 to make sure I demo everything out and things like that. So plus ASA, stuff like that. So that's my game plan for the firewall stuff. Then I have Palo access, so I'll demo Palo. I have Fortinet access, so I'll demo Fortinet. If I can get a hold of Checkpoint, I'll probably do some Checkpoint stuff. But it seems like Cisco, Palo, and Fortinet are the big players in the industry. And then I plan on doing a deep dive into Nexus, because a lot of people seem to like Nexus. I would love to do ACI, but unless you have the hardware to do it, ACI is hard to come by. But my buddy Amar Ahmadi, he's a good friend of mine. He, the guy that wrote the book for ACI, I don't know if I can even pull it out. I might be able to. Let's see if this will work. So I've got the book from him. The Did I? Oh, I'm looking at the live stream instead of doing this. So I have the book that he gave it to me. He actually signed it, which is kind of cool. So yeah, I have a signed copy from Omar. That's kind of cool. So good buddy of mine, but yeah, it's good stuff there. Any timeline or ETA for the SP content? So funny you should ask. Actually, that's one of the reasons why I'm working on a training site versus going through and waiting for a fully developed series on YouTube or whatever. My goal is once I get started with I'm doing a domain migration right now. I'm moving from my old domain, or I'm sorry, from a different hosting company to a new one. Yeah, hey, no problem, Caleb. So once that completes, it's probably going to take a couple days for that. Once that's completed, my goal is to start building content out for enterprise and service provider. I'm literally going to take the enterprise workbook that I've already created and released, and I'm going to put that on the internet, on the website, and that's going to be the first big thing that I put out. And then I'm going to re-record videos for that. So I know on YouTube there's a bunch of content for that, for the really big topology that I released, but my plan is to re-record content and put it on that's specific to the workbook and the technical deep dive around that. My goal is to do the same thing for service provider. So I'll go through core routing, BGP, MPLS, TE, all that type of stuff as I go through the workbook and I go through the labs for that. I will be creating the videos alongside of it. So my goal is by the time I'm done writing the workbook and recording the videos, I should be pretty close to taking the lab, but that's probably going to take some time towards the end of the year is what I'm guessing. I've actually got my employer. I've got employer buy-in from them. My manager's pushing to actually get me to go do it sooner, and I'm like, well, I don't know, man. That's a big ask. But he's the type of guy where he's like, well, you've already got one CCIE, so how hard could it be? And I'm like, well, it's a little bit more difficult than you would think. So, but that's my game plan. So I'll be able to do that, and then it'll be much easier to update web pages and add labs and videos to a website than it would be to go through and reformat an entire book when you add stuff to it, things like that. So that's one of the reasons why you haven't seen an enterprise update yet, because I plan on doing that. That's something I've been kicking around the ideas for. So that's my game plan for that. So besides that, that's pretty much what it is that I wanted to get into here tonight. And unless you guys have something else that you guys wanted to chit chat about, or have questions on, free to hang out for a few more minutes. But if nobody does, I'll go ahead and kill the live stream tonight, and we'll do the same thing next Wednesday. For those of you that are members of the channel, whether it's through YouTube or through Patreon, everybody should have access to the coaching sessions on Friday evening at 7. So I'll be going live for an hour on that, but there's a Microsoft Teams link. Thanks, Caleb, for pointing out that I had the wrong link in there. So I updated that, so everybody should have access to it. And you guys will be able to join the team session, and it'll be more direct. I'll be able to answer questions and dive into stuff like that, help you guys out. Because then it helps me learn too. You guys are going to ask me questions, and I'll be like, well, I don't know. Let's Google that. So yeah, other than that, that's what I got going on. For those of you that stopped by this evening to hang out and chat, I appreciate you guys doing so. So yeah, unless I see something pop up here we go. So what are your thoughts about one CCIE versus multiple CCIEs? Is there a financial benefit? So, interesting question. So my answer to that would be there is going to be a point of diminishing returns after a while. So my opinion is once you get your first CCIE and then let's say you go after your second, most employers aren't going to be willing to pay you double your salary just because you have a second CCIE. So let's say hypothetically speaking that you're a CCIE and let's say 10 years of experience and you're making $150,000 a year US. And you go get let's say your route switch and you go get data center and you start doing a bunch of data center work. the likelihood of your employer doubling your salary is pretty unlikely. Now you might be able to get an extra 25,000 out of them, or you'd have to negotiate, what a second CCIE is going to be valuable to, and go back and forth with them. But there is a financial benefit to it. You just have to figure out what that value is going to be. How much is a second or third CCIE worth it, worth to you? So now I do have some friends in the industry that are multiple time CCIEs. One is down in Chicago. He's a dual CCIE, route switch and security, and he's self-employed, and he charges, I don't know, something like $250 or $300 an hour to do whatever work he needs to do, and he's pulling down, mid 300s if I had to guess, annually. So there's other guys that are probably doing even better than that. So if you have a strong business acumen and you're good at negotiating and all that type of stuff, and you're technically accurate and all that good stuff, yeah, you could make some pretty good bank, if you're a multi-time CCIE and you're able to do the work. So there's definitely the potential to make a lot of money out there if you know what you're doing. But yeah, it's difficult. I have chosen for my main income to not be self-employed. I would at some point in the future I'd like to go self-employed, but I have too many obligations and responsibilities to attempt that. So it's easier to work for an organization, have a salary, and benefits and 401k, that type of stuff, than it is for me to go try to be self-employed and deal with all the minutia that goes along with that. So maybe when I'm older and my kids are all grown up and I don't need to work as hard, maybe I'll cut back to part-time or quit my job, and maybe the training site takes off and I'm able to go into that. Then that's that's ideally the direction I'd like to go, but you never know. I'm not going to bank on that. So thought I might as well chuck it here on Friday. Could we do a deep dive for NG MVPN? Yeah, we can totally dive into that, man. I'm all for a next gen multicast VPN stuff and looking at different profiles, and I actually have a lab. Is it this one? I think it might be this one. I have to go see. Oh, 1 second. It's going to get really bright. Is it this one that my topology is built on? No, that's the test that I'm doing. Or is it? Nope. One of these, I think it might be this one. Nope, not that one either. One of these topologies has got the topology I'm deploying for. Nope, that's not it either. Like I said, one of these, I can never remember which one's which. Nope, that's not it either. Actually, it might be. Is it this one? I think it might be this one. SP Lab. Yes, here it is, open. Okay, so I do have a big SP topology that I'm working on currently. And this one right here, I've done a little bit. I think I got Rosen working on this one. Let me pull up. Is it this one? R16? No. That is not the right one. Let me go ahead and open up Secure CRT real quick. So R5. Let me do a quick cursory check here. I know I'm running multicast VPN. Show run section BRF. MDT default. Address family, multicast. I think show IP PIM BRF L3 VPN neighbor. Yeah, I think I'm running Rosen profile 0 here. So I already have multicast VPN deployed as I was testing it out, and I've got the data and MDT default and data MDTs rolled out. So it's just a matter of diving into how it works. So let's do show IP M route VRF L3 VPN. Yeah, so 23 is my, yeah, so this one's doing source specific multicast. So I've got SSM deployed as well. So I am playing around with this type of stuff. So if we want to dive into some NG MVPN, I'm happy to do so. I might have to, you know, mess around with my lab a little bit to try to get it to where I want it to be. But I am doing profile 0 currently, because that was the first one I decided to go do. Matter of fact, show BGP, show run section BGP. Thought I had, yeah, the MDT address family right here. So you need this in order to do, what is it? The data MDT. So you need that in order for data MDTs to work. For default, you don't need the MDT. The address family IPv4 MDT, you don't need that. But for the data, you do. So yeah, we can dive into that. I'm happy to mess with it and see what we can figure out and go from there. So for those of you that are going to be able to join the Friday call, we're going to be talking about multicast VPNs on the coaching sessions. So, all right. So I'm already 10 past the hour. So if anybody else has anything else that they want to chat about, drop it into the comments. I'll give you guys about a minute because I know there's a little bit of lag, but you know, I'm going to wave, see how long it takes for the wave to work. Hopefully not long. Funnily enough, only the NG appropriate. Yeah, that's one thing I was looking at too. I was like, well, maybe it doesn't make sense for me to do profile 0, but it's like one of those things where, like, why not, right? You know, it's all MLDP, right? So that's one thing I was like, well, maybe I just dive into it. Because how hard could it be, and how long should it take me? It'd be probably one of the last things that I cover because it's that complicated, and I have a lot of reading to do. So, multicast VPN is probably one of the more complicated topics on the blueprint, and I have been reading through Nick's book to try to understand it better. But it's just one of those things where it just takes time. So. Yeah, you too, man. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it here. If you guys have anything else you want to chat about, throw it in the comments. If not, I will catch all of you next week for AMA. I am going to be doing a tech support Thursday as I normally do, so it'll just replace the AMA. And then Friday we'll run the coaching session. So if you're an existing member of the channel and you want to join, you should have access to the there's a YouTube live link and a Microsoft Teams link. I will launch the Teams link when I launch the live stream and go from there. What size monitor do you use for EVE-NG? I think these are all 27-inch, if I'm not mistaken. Open sound settings. 1 second. Yeah, I have 3 27-inch monitors in front of me. I have one that's like curved, and then 2 that are just regular Dell monitors. So yeah, it's 3 27-inch. So, and I think, is this zoomed in? Yeah, that's 100% zoom. So I try not to make my topologies like super big when I'm like workbook development, because it just makes it hard to see. So yeah, good stuff. Anywho, so I will catch you guys next week, same bat time, same bat channel. I know it's